So you've probably seen the thumbnail and are prepared to come into the comments section and tell me that I'm wrong or that people have a reason for acting this way or whatever. But I have to respectfully disagree. If you haven't heard yet, lots of film lovers and just casual movie enjoyers have been taking the piss out of Chris Stuckmann and his newest video on Madam Web. Now before I go any further, I want to go ahead and state that I am a fan of Chris and I have been for some time. I don't watch his new content as much, but I do watch his older stuff pretty regularly. I just think he's entertaining and he's always given me the vibe of an honest film lover. To everyone else, however, that seems to have changed. You see, Chris is not a film critic anymore, or at least he doesn't refer to himself as one. He pretty much considers himself a filmmaker exclusively now, which on one hand I can understand. He's making his first indie film and he's looking to make more, which is awesome. I love seeing people achieve their dreams. However, it's hard not to consider him a critic as well when he still reviews movies on his channel. Granted, they're positive only, but they're still reviews nonetheless. And in his latest video on Madam Web and studio interference, he didn't talk about the film, but instead talked about studios interfering with the movie, and that's probably why it allegedly sucked so much ass. I haven't seen Madam Web, so that's why I say allegedly. But apparently people didn't take to this video too kindly. Why? I honestly have no idea. Ever since his Best Movies of 2018 video, he has stated that he felt uncomfortable making a Worst Movies of the Year video, and throughout 2019 and into 2020, he slowly but surely gave up on criticizing movies negatively and focused on talking about movies he likes and supporting hardworking filmmakers.
I also want to briefly talk about one very important thing, and that is the Worst of the Year video. I've done one every year, but I'm going to be really honest and transparent with you guys because I believe that you would prefer that. I haven't really enjoyed doing that video the past couple years. And it just, I think it has something to do with the fact that there's already so much negativity on the internet and so much complaining constantly and all this like fake screaming and anger about movies. It's like, in reality, the filmmaker has the hard job. The filmmaker spends a year, 2 years of his or her life trying to make something, and we only have to sit there for like 90 minutes. And yeah, it might suck. And trust me, I've seen a lot of shitty movies, okay? And I've always been very honest about how I feel, and I will continue to be honest about how I feel. But it just doesn't feel like me, man. It doesn't feel like me when I sit there and I complain and I talk about how much I hated all these movies. If you guys watch my channel this year, you know which movies I hated. You can go to my F playlist. And if you listen to the audio commentary I recently posted on my channel, then you know what my pick for the least favorite film of 2018 is. But I just don't want to make the worst of videos anymore. It just doesn't feel right. I don't know. It might have something to do with film school, being in film school now, or just the fact that over the past 2 years I've been making like an actual professional short film with a real crew every year and then trying to release it to festivals. But in reality, since I started my channel, I'm trying to keep this brief. Since I started my channel, my whole thing has been support film makers. Technically, yeah, I'm reviewing movies and I'm a member of the BFCA and I'm a film critic and all that. But I was a filmmaker when I was a kid, making shitty amateur movies with a VHS cam thing with my friends. That's where my brain's really at. And so I've always wanted to support filmmakers. And so, I don't know. I just don't really feel like making the worst of list. I could make one. I could make a video. It would get probably over 1 million hits. And it would probably give me a lot of monetization. And I'd make more money off of seeing other people's bad movies and then talking about them a second time. I just don't really want to do that. It just makes me feel kind of icky. And that's the honest truth.
Now, while I understand where Chris is coming from, I also understand, to a degree, what this huge uproar is really about. Chris hasn't reviewed a movie negatively in some time, and while some have said their piece and why harsh criticism matters, others have been pretty dramatic over this whole thing. So while the iron is hot, I thought I'd go ahead and strike. I think that people really need to take a step back and look at things from Chris's point of view and try to understand why he won't criticize a movie negatively. Now, while I understand his point of view as a filmmaker, I also understand the point of view from the more level-headed individuals. I know I don't really need to go on a whole tangent about why criticism matters, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Harsh, negative criticism matters because it teaches companies, developers, writers, directors, or whoever to improve on what they did last time. And that criticism comes from people who really care. It's a big reason why I'm advocating for better hardware on Nintendo's next console, because the Switch's hardware is outdated and is just not up to snuff with what we have now. And I love Nintendo's games, so I need a really good reason to pick up their next console. Another big one for me is The Last of Us Part 2. I've been heavily critical of the game's poor writing and directing, mostly because I love Part 1. I just wanted more of what Part 1 had, and simply put, without going into spoilers, they destroyed it. Again, I'm critical of this stuff because I love it. If my favorite band in the world dropped an album, like, tomorrow and it sucked, you bet your ass I'd be critical of it. Why? Because I care and love the people behind it. Ignoring the record label and all the executives there, I love the people in the band that are capable of making something great. I know that these people are capable of making something incredible, so if they fucked up before, let them know about it and what they could do better. Because again, in the movie world, you have your writers, directors, actors, etc. that are capable of making a really good movie. Studio interference aside, if they fucked up before, let them know. Let them really know how bad their stuff is so that they can improve upon that and make something incredible. That is why criticism matters. It teaches artists to grow and evolve and take risks, and sometimes ignore what higher-ups have to say if it's bullshit. And this leads me to Chris's video. Without going too much into depth, his whole point was the studio interfering with Madame Web and what made it turn out to be so painfully awful, and that the people who actually worked on the movie could have made a great movie if the studio didn't interfere. Now, I understand where he's coming from. Studios interfering with a project can lead to a catastrophic final result. Alien 3 is the prime example of that. But that's not always the case. As I said earlier, I haven't seen Madame Web, so I don't really know anything about it, and as such, I have no way of knowing if these ideas were just bad from the start, or if the studio changed things so drastically, it turned out as one of the worst movies of the year so far. However, the studio behind the first Final Destination movie actually rewrote the entire ending, and apparently it resulted in a much better ending than what was originally planned. But if there's no studio interference and the movie is just plain bad, I think it's fair to criticize it so the crew can learn what to do more of and what to do less of. And again, I want to say this, calling out studio interference in Hollywood is completely justified, but that's not always the leading cause for shitty movies. If there's a cast and crew that are making a film that's not directly tied to a said company, then you're fair to criticize it for being bad. Criticism helps shape artists and helps them grow and evolve. Without it, no one will ever learn and people will keep pumping out slop. That's my admittedly unnecessary rant on the backlash to Chris's video, but I felt pretty passionate about the discussion going around and I just wanted to share my thoughts. Anyways, that'll do it from me. If you guys enjoyed this one, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Don't forget to join the Discord, link down below. Thank you guys for watching, much love, and I'll see you guys in the next one.